really, how do we explain Bhakti to a modern Western audience? Because I felt Prabhupada had, he had wanted us to communicate to our European American brothers and sisters. And I felt that we didn't have a lot of ways to reach them. And so I was told to write.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Free Radical Podcast. Today, I had the fortune, the blessing to have a very deep, intimate conversation with a dear friend of mine, an elder, Pranada or Pranada Dasi. So, Pranada began her spiritual journey at the age of 16 upon discovering the works of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, and moved into the ISKCON temple in Los Angeles ashram at 17 years old. She has since dedicated her life to the propagation of Bhakti knowledge through various services, including book distribution and production, managerial roles, and launching the international newsletter Priti Lakshanam. For 2 decades, she advocated for women's rights within ISKCON, contributing to social change through education, dialogue, and policy reform. In 2020, she published The Emergence of Women's Voice in ISKCON, an anthology highlighting women's experiences in the institution. Pranada also played a key role in the construction of the Alachua, Florida temple and co-founded the Krishna.com website. As an entrepreneur, she established successful businesses to support her family while offering her services freely. She authored the Bhakti trilogy in the form of her 3 books, Wise Love, Bhakti Shakti, and Prem Kirtan, aimed at introducing Bhakti to a Western audience, and also co-authored When Illness Takes Hold, Hopeful Words for Sadhakas with Archana Siddhi. Currently, Pranada mentors individuals and leads discussion groups on integrating Bhakti into our daily life. So here I'm briefly sharing her contact info. Her website is pranadakomtois.com. Of course, Komtois is pronounced Pranada Komtois, COMTOIS.com. So it was a great conversation, as you will see from the start. It was a surprise conversation. I won't tell you more. I won't spoil the beginning of our podcast. But pay attention on how the whole thing unfolds and impacts. So I wish you had a very insightful listening to the topics we are sharing with Pranada here. This is a Free Radical podcast. To support it, please subscribe to our channel by clicking on the bell. And if you feel nourished by the conversation, of course, you're invited to like it, to share it, and to add your own words and thoughts and reflections to the ongoing conversation we are trying to have on a day-to-day basis. So without further ado, dear friends, here is Pranada. So Pranada.
Okay, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Free Radical Podcast.
Nice to see you here. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. That's how it works.
Hare Krishna. You doing well?
Yeah.
You had a walk in nature?
Having walked, just coming from a walk in nature in Sweden. And just on time. Sorry for the delay, but I was looking forward to have this conversation for a few years already.
Hare Krishna. Really?
Yeah, just in case I'm being serious.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah, but let's begin with what can we give? Let's begin with my style of invitation to you. This surprise. Why I'm doing this particular way of inviting you?
Because I'm terrified of speaking, and I've never accepted your offers.
Yeah.
Because if I do, then I won't be able to sleep at night, and I must get my rest.
Yeah, and why it's all that? Let's go to the root cause of all that. Maybe that's a good topic to begin. Maybe some.
Yeah, well, the root,
to women in ISKCON or the past? I don't know. You tell
Yeah, we
me.
could. Well, I mean, I could identify some of that as a point of where I developed this anxiety about speaking because in the 1980s, I was interested in making facility for women to give Bhagavatam class. I felt that it was important for their spiritual development and growth. And I also felt that it would modify the perception of some men about women being less intelligent and personifications of Maya. And I wanted to, change the dynamic of the status quo for women in ISKCON and bring some balance and bring some kindness to them and bring some support for their devotional service. And so, in order to do that, it meant that I needed to break through and personally speak. So, myself and a god sister, Sandamini, decided that we should. We sent a request to the GBC to allow women to speak, and they said, well, there's nothing on the books saying that women can't speak. So there's nothing to talk about. And so we said, all right, between the two of us, we said, all right, so let's just start giving classes.
Hmm.
And we did. We sat down. She gave the first Bhagavatam class. It had been, by this time, it had been at least 10 years that women had been blocked from giving any kind of class, what to speak of the Bhagavatam.
Hmm.
So she sat down, and all the brahmacharis promptly stood up and walked out. And the next time that I gave class, the same thing happened. Brahmacharis stood up and walked out. That went on for a while. So that was a little unnerving because, one thing is if you're a new devotee and are given the opportunity to speak, it becomes like a natural thing. And you're given you know that people know you're not going to be an excellent orator when the first time you go up there, you're learning the philosophy, you're learning the proper presentation of the Bhagavatam and Shastra. And so um, you have that practice right from the time that you're a new devotee. But if you've now been a devotee for 10 or 20 years and haven't ever spoken, and you're expected now that you're a devotee for so long to be able to speak, it's quite unnerving. You have a lot of pressure on you. So I think that pressure, and then um, I had moved to another temple and asked, and they wouldn't let me, but they finally let me give a Sunday feast lecture. And then I was asked to speak at the third annual ISKCON Communications Conference in Europe in
Belgium.
Pranada dasi, Belgium. Yeah, that was, I think it was 1994. It's the third annual. And the person who asked me, I said, no, thank you. I don't want to be offered on the altar of sacrifice in such a broad, in such a broad presentation, because there are hundreds of devotees would go and many sannyasis, and I was like, no, I can't do that. And he said, no, 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 no. We're progressive here. We're not like the United States. We've already had women speaking. And so I said, okay.
Hmm.
So I went and I presented a paper called The All Attractive ISKCON, which you might like to know about that paper. It was all about personalism in ISKCON and the need for it.
Yeah.
And the crying need of the day is to relate to each individual as a person. And anyway, that paper was well received, actually. I got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And but it was very unnerving. I actually had lost sleep for a couple of weeks before making that presentation. And then I moved to Alachua and was giving Bhagavatam classes to also just continue getting people used to the idea that women could speak and should speak. And I wanted to, I tried to open the door and keep it open for the women. And then at some point, I just couldn't speak. It was just too unnerving, and it was kind of gradual. I think that it was just more and more like, no, you can't speak. And I took it as a grace from Krishna to keep me contained, so to speak, and submissive and humble. And I felt like I did the service that I was called to do, and I
Hmm.
was grateful for the service. but then as I aged, it just got worse, and so that's why I've never accepted your invitation to your free radical podcast.
So just for
Hare
the
Krishna.
audience to know my trickiness, and Pranada's trickiness also, because she told me, okay, Maras, we can only do a podcast if you call me in the morning and you tell me today in the afternoon we have a podcast at this time. So taken by surprise. And I
Yeah,
know I didn't
it
even do
was.
that. So sorry, it was too tricky because Pranada is helping me with the editing of my third book. So I lied to her literally. I'm publicly confessing my veracity. I say, I would like to have a call with you to see some points of the editing. So you have a call. She said, yeah, here's the Zoom link. And I said, no, Zoom is not working for me. Can we do it on a StreamYard?
I couldn't figure it out.
You didn't suspect anything
No,
about
I even had the file open because I thought you wanted to talk about something maybe in chapter 4, and
it.
I totally did not
I'm,
suspect
I'm
anything.
such a monster. Sorry. Yeah. I thought maybe I will tell her
Oh,
to at the last moment, like, oh no, it was Zoom is not working. But I sent the StreamYard link earlier, so I said maybe she will suspect with that. Anyhow, it was an
no,
effective
nothing.
technique, so here we are. And I like that's how
You did it, Maharaj. I didn't think you would ever even try because it was such trouble
yeah.
to
To be
try to
honest, it
get
was not
me.
something I was planning for months, but a few days ago, I say I'll try it. Yeah, why I won't try it? So yeah, I'm trying it with.
Okay.
I have been taking my surprise myself. As you can see, I'm not using my usual camera and microphone because all that was in my luggage that got lost when I came here to Sweden.
Oh,
So
Krishna, I didn't hear that.
yeah. So my
Oh, my
luggage
Krishna.
period. They say they may appear, but anyhow, it's an interesting experience to let go.
Well, you travel with so little. I've always been
Yeah, just my
amazed that
cloth.
with one carry-on, you have all your equipment, every piece of belonging and supplement, whatever you need in one carry-on, and I could never figure that out how you do
Yeah, in one
that.
sense, my most crucial stuff is in my computer bag, so that's with me, and that's good. But
Okay.
yeah, and the carry-on is mostly clothes, and half of that is camera and tripod and cables
Right.
and lights.
Right. I
Anyhow,
saw it. I saw it. It fills
I'm
up the whole
using
bag.
it. So anyhow,
Hare
despite
Krishna.
this unusual beginning of my podcast, probably this is the most unusual beginning for you and for me. I like to always ask my
Hare-
guests how we came to know each other. So let's
ah,
back,
back.
yeah, for there. So
Okay.
probably you have a very acute memory, so I'm sure you will be way better in doing that reminding
Hare
session
Krishna.
than me. So if you briefly will like just briefly, not a long story, so we can go to other points, but just a brief mention how we need. I think you referred that a little bit in the forward
Yeah,
you wrote to
in the
radical
forward.
personalism. Yeah.
Yeah, so I met you, I think it was 2017 at Ananda Ashram in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I had come to hear from Tripurari Swami
Hmm.
and spend time with Archana. It was a regular trip I would make is to spend time with my very dear friend Archana City. And you had come, I believe, you had also come with Swami Das at the time,
Okay. Possibly. Yeah, there
right?
was one busy.
Was it,
Yeah.
was, oh, maybe, okay, so maybe it was just you the first time I
I
had
don't know.
seen. I can't remember about that. But you were facing the crisis of your first guru, and you were coming to hear from
Yeah.
Swami Tripurari. And at that time, you gave some classes, and it was you were filling in all the verses that Maharaj wasn't remembering in his classes. So it was clear that you were a knowledgeable Vaishnava. And I was impressed at the time by your personalism. So, Hare Krishna.
I can
I just
hear you.
lost
I can
everything.
hear you.
Okay, I had just lost everything.
Okay.
So I was impressed by your personalism, but I didn't know you very well at that point. And then I heard more about you through COVID, during the COVID time through Archana, when you had stayed with
Mm,
her for
mm,
some
yeah.
time. And I think at that time, you were also writing the first book,
Yeah. It's the
and
right book, and that 6 month quarantine that
and
I got in the U.S. trap.
right, and we were speaking about the book and what it meant how to publish, what a forward meant.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, just in general, book publishing in general. We had the conversation since I have that background, and so I got to know you gradually through there, and then working on that first book, looking at it for you, and I got to know you more, and then your visits to Alachua, and then of course when your relationship with your second guru became very unfortunately public in a negative way. You were in Alachua, and we spent some time together,
yeah.
actually during that kind of crisis, because it was a significant change for several of us from that were participating in that sangha. And so I think that's where I really got to know you more personally. But it was a gradual development of a relationship, one that I now value very much, and I'm grateful, Krishna. I think what I'm seeing actually is that Krishna arranged this whole our relationship, the relationship with other people who are helping you with your books now. I feel like I was moved from one place to another
Mm,
in order to be of service here,
mm,
because I feel that your books are so important. And I think that the contribution you're making is significant to Gaudiya Vaishnava community, as well as the kind of like bringing out special aspects of the theology that haven't always been highlighted, but are very inspiring and enlightening and encouraging. So I feel like Krishna really just moved me in this direction to be of service, since I do have a background in book publishing and editing. And I'm grateful and happy.
despite all the headaches that I'm giving to you.
Hare Krishna, no headaches.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, I've been, as you said, I've been making my first baby steps in whatever means to publish a book, and yeah, Pranada has been very kind and supportive from step one, so to say, till today. Then still, I'm giving her my own headaches with M dashes and an overdose of certain literary ornaments that yeah, you're being very patient with me, so thank you so much for that, and supportive. Yeah, and I appreciate your appreciation of how things unfolded in a way that not for you to be useful of service to me, but of course it's a teamwork, and the service is not for one another and ultimately, but for a cause that is bigger than ourselves. So I'm very also happy
Yeah.
to have you, and of course your husband Nagaraj helping, and Bhakti Ras and other people. So yeah, it was a very organic sprouting and blossoming of a particular teamwork. So yeah,
And when you see something like that, Yamuna used to call it Krishna magic. It's definitely divine hand is involved. These things are they were so well put together that you wouldn't have on your own,
yeah.
conceived them, so to speak.
Mm.
And they are, yeah. So it's an appreciation to be of service to the broader community. And yes, I know that you're humble and you don't want to bring the attention to yourself. But yeah, we also recognize how each of us are used in Krishna's service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some, some, we each have something to bring to the seva.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, Pranda, I've been visiting I mean, reading a little bit of of course, your books and how you introduce yourself. And generally, I see that you introduce yourself as a pilgrim. So I really like that. No, I really like that. I wanted just for a minute to go there for a minute. So
Okay.
what it means for you to why
Move
to
over.
introduce yourself as a pilgrim, because of course in general circles, if you say, who are you? I'm a pilgrim. So it may sound a little bit like strange. What do you mean by pilgrim? That you are in Alachua, you're not going to Mecca, to Jerusalem, to Vrindavan. I mean, you may be going, but it's not like, oh, okay, I'm a pilgrim when I go there. No, but
Mm.
I'm a pilgrim. My identity is pilgrimage. So I don't want to respond.
Yeah.
So please, what do you mean by
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I had the call to write, I started with a blog. It didn't go anywhere, and then I did write a book. Wise Love came out, but then you have to have like about the author, and you have to explain something. So I have no, I don't have any big credentials, and just saying. So I was trying to figure out, well, who am I, and what do I say about myself? And, I didn't want to say author, teacher, um, because I just felt like I was doing a service. I didn't feel myself like an author or a teacher. I just felt like I'm a servant of Prabhupada, and I was guided to do this service years ago. And there had been many blocks, and then it was opened. It was a very divine experience, actually,
Hmm.
how those books came out, where just
Yeah,
um,
and
I was actually just taking notes.
I want to
I
go
was actually
there.
just taking notes.
Yeah, I want to go there book by
So,
book
but
eventually. But yeah.
okay. So anyway, I just felt like, well, what I am is a pilgrim. I'm still exploring bhakti. I'm still learning.
Mm,
I have given my life to Prabhupada, and I have attempted with all sincerity and determination to make my life an offering to him. And I'm still in process, and I'm still I'm still being written, so to speak. And so I felt like I'm a pilgrim, and it just felt so real and natural and comfortable. Like I didn't have to pretend to be something great or big. I was just a little person, and that was just the pilgrim on this beautiful journey of bhakti and discovering gem after gem after gem
mm,
of our philosophy and theology, and it just so many experiences through sadhana and different practices and services. And I was just like, yes, I'm a pilgrim, and I'm so happy being a pilgrim.
yeah,
I'm really willing to learn more, willing for the pilgrimage to take me to new places. And
I can feel it.
it's
I can
like,
feel it when you're saying you become excited about all excited about it. So it's beautiful to witness
yes.
your
Yeah, and it's more, and it's true. It's like unfolding on a regular
yeah.
basis. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I cannot avoid, as you can imagine, thinking of the book I'm finishing now, and you're helping me with editing because you are talking. I'm on process. I'm still learning. I'm still
Right.
discovering, and the whole theme of my book, in one sense, is how the nature of love and reality and divinity and the journey is ever evolving, ever unfolding, and if we
Yeah.
properly understand that, it's so humbling, as you mentioned, right? It puts us it puts us in a place of perpetual studenthood, servanthood, so to say, pilgrimagehood. I really like your connection of yeah between pilgrim and like pilgrim, like someone who is looking for something. It's on a journey. A pilgrim is on a
Yes.
journey, and a pilgrim is
Right.
looking for something. But
Yeah.
it's an ongoing thing. It's a continuous exploration, and like what Srila Semaras was.
And sometimes we say, go ahead, say what you're
No,
going
no,
to say.
just to think about Srila Semaras saying students forever. We are students
Right.
forever.
Yeah.
What you how you describe
And
yourself is basically that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes we think as a pilgrim looking at something, and then we're edified and it changes, and we're looking at something else. And so just have that openness to being shown what's next and what's necessary is also part of the exciting adventure, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
As a pilgrim.
And as a pilgrim, Pranada, for as much as I know, and we have shared a lot, and you have allowed me to have a glimpse into your timeline, so to say, into your life story, uh, by sharing. And you have a hard life. You have a life full of complexity. Of course, everyone has their own complexity. I don't want to over dimension anything, but some people, yeah, have a little less,
Have a little extra,
a
have
little
a
less,
little
and a
extra
little extra.
mercy.
So you have gone through lots of struggles and complexity from childhood and family dynamics. After that, I mean, it's not necessary. We don't have time to go step by step with names and situations, but I don't know. I'm really, personally, I really appreciate and admire the fact that despite all that, or because of all that, you have emerged uh, as who you are now, and as a very inspiring elder and person who with insight, realizations, and determination, and a profound faith in the practice and integration of complexity and suffering and pain and
Mm.
joy, and trying to make all part of the pilgrimage again. No, like acknowledging pilgrimage is not just like a party, so to say, like go into a fun place like a theme park. It's rough, it's complex, it's bewildering, and it's part of being a
Yeah.
pilgrim. So I don't know. I'd like to
Yeah.
hear from you a few words in terms of how you personally have like navigated suffering, pain, complexity, trauma, in a way. Because again, I don't think many times in our tradition we emphasize the journey from that place. Like all this stuff is more something that you have to let go or transcend or leave or even be ashamed of. And sometimes when we hear the life stories of devotees, many times it's just like heroes, superheroes journey,
Yeah.
not heroes journey. No, not the hero's
That's
journeys. It
true.
should be confronting the dragon and leaving the familiar and going through crisis and returning with a new gift. But it's just
Yeah.
superhero journey. Need to see that all perfect, incredible. And I hear that, and it's beautiful, but it's discouraging in the way that okay, I'm not
Mm.
that. I cannot relate with that. I can draw some inspiration, but where are the stories of those guys like me? Where's the
Yeah.
relatability of the journey? So
Right.
whatever you may like to give
Yeah.
us with today.
Well, when I think about what I had been through, I do think I think what's happened in my life is that I've been through many lifetimes in one life. That's what it feels like. It feels like the process of going through Anartha Vritti was kind of like speeded up, or a lot put into one life for making way through that. And yeah, the intensity was quite bewildering a lot of times. But I just approached each one the way any of us can approach anything. It's just one step at a time. Sometimes it was just a minute at a time, and you make it through and you come out the other side. And there were a lot, like you say, there were many dark nights of the soul, but I think they're so important as a pilgrim to experience that, because I learned so much. So much was revealed to me about myself, about the nature of bhakti, about life, about people. And I feel that I gained wisdom from all of that, and I'm in a position to share that with others, where because I've had so many different experiences in life, then there's points of connection with so many people, right? Because it was so much had happened. And I think there's no way around it. There's no way around us progressing in spiritual life but to go through these ego deaths.
That's
And
that's the, that's the word I was waiting for. Death. Thank you.
no, it's definitely. I mean, I see them. They were so clearly
Yeah,
deaths, full
yeah.
deaths, and this new person would emerge, and I'm very, very different, even from this young girl who was very sincere about Krishna consciousness and surrendering, and I thought she was a good girl, and I learned, oh, she wasn't as good as I thought she was. And just so much awakening. But the other thing is that it is a powerful way to develop one's relationship with Krishna. And it becomes a very personal relationship with Krishna as you navigate the ugliness and the messiness and the
And
difficulties.
realizing that he's there with you all the time in all those moments, right? Those even if you
Yeah,
even if you lose sight at the moment that we are being held at place,
yeah,
but realizing maybe after some time looking back, whatever, like, oh, he has been with me all the time, supporting.
one of the things that was interesting about the experience of going through so many dark nights and deaths is that it's almost like you kind of like get accustomed to the terrain a little bit. Like, oh, I've been here before. I know what this means. It means I just need to like fall out in dandavats and stay there in
Roundabout break.
submission and humility. Yeah, this is the life is a dandavat parikram actually, and
That's a
and
good.
it's you really. Yeah, and you really start, like I say, you start recognizing to train when you come back to these places over and over again. You're starting to develop a knowledge of how to surrender more quicker. That's the other thing. It's kind of like it would take me a year or a month, and then it's like something comes up, and I'm like, okay, I'm right there. Let's surrender it in this moment right now. I don't have to wait a long time, even if it's
Yeah, yeah.
painful.
I will say that even one develops some taste for that. Not in the sense that one becomes a masochist, but that one knows there is an opportunity for growth and letting go and
Yes.
discovering something deeper. And there is a
Yeah.
longing for that. So in that sense, there is a taste for the call to die, basically, as you are saying, to die so many times, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. The other day I was reciting this mantra, Vedic mantra, Asato Asat Gamaya, Tamasma Jyotirma Gamaya, Mrityama Mritar Gamaya, which is take me from illusion to reality, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. So somehow the idea came, wow, it's so interesting because the word Amrita means immortality, among many other things. So immortality, life, eternal life, but Amrita includes the word Mritya, which includes death. No, so for me, if you want Amrita, you have to embrace Mritya. If you want
Yes.
immortality,
Yeah.
you have to die once and again. The other day we were talking with Bhakti and Sumati, and this idea came, which is a very good title for the book. Probably she may use it. So whoever is listening to this now, don't steal this title from us, please. So the title came like 100 deaths before lunch. No, like this
Oh,
idea
Krishna.
dying dying repeatedly in a relatively short period of time, as you say. Sometimes a whole day seems like a lifetime, and you were death and reborn so many times, and yeah, we can use the language "die to live" and all these expressions, but we really need to learn how to say to accept that reality operates in that way: loss and renewal,
Yes.
death and new
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
it's necessary. It's not that it's bad. It's something that I will try to avoid as much as I can. But we need to die and relive again. That's again the journey, the pilgrim's journey, if you want to use your
Yeah.
terminology. No? So yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that. In connection to your life journey, just a few words about your Gurudev Srila Prabhupada, because I mean, you have shared with me so many beautiful ways of expressing your first meeting. Since we have been talking about death, let's talk about life for a moment. Let's talk about
Okay.
like the life you were invited to by that very first moment you met Srila Prabhupada in the airport, by that exchange of glances. If it's not too confidential to share here publicly, whatever you may like to share,
Yeah.
what happened there?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. There is a book that was put together by Vaishnavis in ISKCON called The Bond of Love. And it's memories from over 100 of Srila Prabhupada's female disciples. And in there, I write about the glance that I received from Prabhupada. So it's not private. um, yeah, I mean, being in Prabhupada's presence was, well, very transformative, as most of his disciples will describe. Uh, it, it, I don't know, it's like just being near him, I was transported to the spiritual world. It was so profoundly clear what was happening that his company gave that. And then when I had I had no clue this was going to happen, but he was coming out for his morning walk in Los Angeles. He would come down from his room, and I had decided to go to the opposite side of his car and kind of like hide out. And I was only there. And when he got into the car, he acknowledged all the devotees on the landing across from where I was. And then I guess I caught his eye. And he was sitting in the back seat and he folded his hands and he bent down and he looked up at me. And I looked at him and then I got very nervous, like, oh, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what happened in those seconds was not in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it was completely unplanned. When he looked at me, it was like his eyes were speaking to me. And I was like, like, what should I say with my eyes? What should I say? And as I was like bewildered about what should I say with my eyes, I had never spoken with my eyes before, and he was speaking
You're
to
learning
me.
a new
And I'm
language.
like, a new language. There's a whole new language going on here, and I was bewildered. And then for a flash, I saw eternity this way and that way. I don't know how to explain it, but like
Yeah,
all of
yeah, there are no words.
eternity. He, he,
Yeah.
he just showed me all of eternity. And at the exact instant also, he showed me he was my friend. And I was bewildered. I was like, no, you're my guru. How it wasn't computing, but I saw eternity and that he was my friend and that we had been friends forever. I don't know. It was just a feeling.
Mm.
And so I decided with my eyes, I would say, yes, I'm yours and I want to be your friend and I'm here. And so I sent that message with my eyes and then the car took off and I just stood there and cried for some time. And I tell you that glance, I mean, it's got to be just like a split second glance that all of this happened. So much happened in a split fraction of a second. But that glance has carried me also through my
Yeah.
devotional services and difficulties and remembering the reality of that,
Mm.
remembering that how he moved me
Yeah.
and how he changed me.
I cannot avoid thinking about sections in Shastra where it is clearly described how a pure devotee can bestow perfection by glancing. No, so this is
Yes,
kind of the perfect example. Like Rupa Goswami will say in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu something and then quote a verse that gives an example of that. So here your life situation will be an example of, okay, a pure devotee bestowing perfection by glancing. Even if one you may say, but Maharaj, I didn't attain perfection. Immediately there was lots of messiness, but somehow you saw perfection. You were shown perfection, and
yeah,
that darshan you
yeah,
had, you mentioned, carry with you,
yes.
accompany you till today, and help you to move forward in so many ways, in so
Uh,
many moments, and we'll
And
continue there.
honestly, I did have, yeah, it will, yeah, it will continue. Yeah, it was so clear to me because I was about to take initiation first Harinam initiation while during his visit, and I thought, yeah, I'm right where I need to be. This is my path. It was such a huge confirmation. And then at one point, I did have a major my life had many difficulties, but I had a very serious crisis of faith where I started saying, maybe I made a mistake at 17, and maybe bhakti isn't my way. There's just too much things happening that are going wrong, and it was a crisis of faith. I became very angry at Krishna for some time. And part of the resolution of that crisis was remembering that gift, as well as a few other key moments of my life where I experienced transcendence. I am a
Yeah,
spiritual being. I experienced the spiritual world. Prabhupada showed me eternity at several points in my life. Not a lot, but 3, 4, 5. And I just said, no, I can't deny
enough.
these are real experiences. These are real. I'm not going to deny the reality I experienced.
Yeah, yeah. Like when Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukadev Goswami, have a week to attain perfection, is that enough? And he chuckled, like, just a moment of full presence or attention is enough. So that these moments that you have had, and I'm not saying only you have had, but I will say each one of
Right,
us in our own
exactly.
way have had undeniable epiphanies that, yeah, they won't be there on a daily basis, but even if you have one, two in your whole lifetime,
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
enough. That's enough.
Yes. And I think one of the things I
And it's
like to
important.
speak to devotees one of the things I like to speak to devotees about is that acknowledge them when they come. Like, don't just make light of them or just think that it's an ordinary experience or forget about them, but actually
Mhm.
acknowledge the moment and what's been given, because
Yeah.
it's not only forming who you are, it's giving you the strength to continue in times of dryness or darkness. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of devotees do. They make light of these things and they don't take them as serious as they are, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes, anyway.
Yeah, I cannot avoid, of course, going back. I won't enter into those details, but going back to my own undeniable epiphanies, and they were so clear and so undeniable. And after 20, 25 years, I still can think about them, and they are so palpable and so still impossible to put them into words, but at the same time, absolutely undeniable. So, and that's for me that's how you build faith in one sense. For faith not to be mere
Yes.
belief, it has to be built on undeniable experience, and you trust
Yes.
that because it was so self-effulgent, like the sun appearing, totally undeniable, that you built your temple of faith on the foundation of those unique moments. So I totally agree the importance of doing some shmaranam in terms of keeping them in our memory, in our mind, not like a thing of the past, because as you say,
Right.
eternity was shown. So eternity is not a thing of the past, it's eternally
Right.
present. So it's
Yes.
not that you are being nostalgic or something like that, but you are connected with actual reality, and that can happen in a moment. That
Exactly.
yeah, that reminds me verse in Shastra, I don't know, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Ka Lava Matra, just for a millisecond of
It's just like,
association with the Bhakti, you attain all perfection. Again, you are shown all perfection, even if you haven't got there yet. It's just a matter of time. You know, like Prabhupada will say, which was the
right.
purpose you share with me? Like you will be dragged by force or something. The nature of
Forcibly
bhakti.
dragged to ultimate success. Forcibly dragged to ultimate success. The other thing, Maharaj, is that, faith is not only built in those brilliant moments, but in the dark
Yeah,
moments,
yeah,
because
yeah, of
um,
course. Yeah,
I,
that's
I
why I
feel
want
I feel like, yeah, yeah,
death and
okay, yeah,
life.
yeah.
That's why I want to bring the two, and now yeah, I appreciate that you put
Yeah.
the two together in the context of faith. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because if not, we
Yeah,
may
because I
become like
feel,
sorry, dopamine addicts. Like I want always to feel ecstasy and to have revelations, ambitions, and I will build my faith only on that. And no, but of course, only tragedy or crisis may be too much. So both are necessary, right? Both are necessary to integrate.
yeah, well, but I'm saying the actual process of these moments of darkness or dryness, they're they tend to be faith building. I guess comes back to what I was saying before, is that you start recognizing certain things in the practice and the process, and you come there again and you go, oh, I've been here before, and this is how I've learned, this is how I need to deal with it, and then it works, and that's faith building.
Yeah, Pranada, you are very you're an author, although you don't like to identify yourself as such. You like to identify yourself as a pilgrim. You're a pilgrim author. uh, you're being authored, as you say. You're being written. You write books,
Yeah,
but you are
I'm
being
being.
written by life. You're being written by grace and mercy, and your books are the result of you being written. So you write what you have been written about yourself. So you're in that sense you have authority. That I like to also use a play of words. You are authored by life. You're written by life. So being an author also, if you're authored by life in a proper way, your words have authority. No? From that place, no? From a place of being authored by life, by God's grace, there's authority there. There's power. So you have written some books in that context, in that type of authorship, which I really appreciate. So I'd like to briefly go to wrap up our conversation. See, I know we don't have that much time today. Touching briefly upon your three books, basically. But before that, a few words, if you would like to share, in terms of writing and the writing process, and the importance of writing, how much, because some people may say, well, I'm not an author, I'm not talented, I'm not a writer, but what do you think about writing as, yes, as part of sadhana, as journaling, therapy, healing, expression, creativity? Not only writing, but of course, again, we are all artists, or like the artist way will make the case, right? Everyone is an artist somehow or other. You have to contact that. But if there's any advice or any word you may have to share in terms of spiritual authorship, whatever, whenever you may like to go, before going to your books.
Yeah. Yeah, I think writing is important for devotees because, like speaking, it forces us to really think deeply about what we're hearing or learning. And when you speak or write, all of a sudden you realize you don't know as much as you thought you did, and you need to pay more attention
Right.
and and go deeper. So it's a beautiful way to go deeper in our understanding of the philosophy, the theology, and when we do, uh, well, we get more realizations. They become more. We own them more,
Mhm.
and then we'll, that's just my experience in writing and speaking. And I don't know. I was Prabhupada had said several times that he wanted his disciples to write. He wanted, even if it was just a few lines a day, he wanted
Mm.
his disciples to write. So, he saw the benefit of writing. He experienced the benefit of writing books, particularly, but also Back to Godhead articles. And he asked that. So when I got the call inside to write, I felt like, well, first of all, I said, no, I don't do that. I don't know how to do that, and I'm not going to do that. And the inner voice kept on going. You have to, you have to. So I didn't know how to write. I had written business letters.
Well,
I'd
you
written
really
business
learned how
letters,
to write, I
and
must say. Sorry.
Hare Krishna. But so what I did as I was called into that service, then I actually, took some writing courses, and then I went onto a writing group every week and found a writing mentor and tried to, really, how do we explain bhakti to a modern Western audience? Um, because I felt Prabhupada had, he had wanted us to communicate to our European American brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
and I felt that we didn't have a lot of ways to reach them, and so I was told to write, and so I tried to learn how to write, and then as far as the process goes, I didn't write. It was very interesting. I didn't write. I can honestly tell you, I did not write. I would listen, I would look at a blank page, and
Yeah,
I have
what do you
no
mean you
idea
did?
what
What do you mean you didn't write? You mean that you were written, basically?
well, yeah, that I actually was just taking notes on what was coming. I was just, okay, I got that. I'll write that down. Okay, yes, thank you, and I'll write that
Mm.
down. And I would look at a blank page and not know where to go. And then I'd listen to a lecture or pick up a book or have conversation. I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what needs to be said. And I'd
Mm.
write it down. And at first I thought this was quite interesting, and I noticed it, and it was like, wow, this is wonderful. And it's not going to happen again, but I'm glad to have witnessed it once and twice. And then it was like every day, and then it was like every book, and I was just, that's another, like, a faith building experience. It was, I didn't have to know what I was writing even. It was just coming out. So that was my experience.
Mm.
That
Thank you for sharing.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
since you mentioned that, okay, one book, two books, and the point that you mentioned, this idea of making the presentation relevant to contemporary audiences, I'd like to briefly touch upon each one of the three books you wrote, which somehow form a trilogy, right? Wise Love, Bhakti
Yes,
Shakti, and
yes,
Prem
I
Kirtan.
do.
Of course, for those who would like to acquire them, they're totally invited, totally recommended. So, Wise Love, let's go briefly to each one of them. Wise Love,
Okay.
which is also translated into Spanish and other languages. And specifically, let's concentrate for a minute on the topic of the language and trying to present things in a relevant, relatable way and keeping the
Right.
current, as I like to say.
Alive, alive.
Yeah, because again,
Right.
we are trying to convey truths that come from an ever evolving source. So we have to remain ourselves ever evolving to convey the ever evolvingness of what we are trying to share, because it's a constant evolution and expansion. And what to speak of the change of times and languages and culture. So what do you think? How important is the language? What's the importance and the role of language in being effective in touching other people's
Well,
hearts, provoking transformation?
I
Because some
mentioned,
people, it's just a language, it's just a technicality, it's just a relative issue. If you are powerful internally, that's enough, but you don't need to care about the crafting, so to say, of the presentation. So, what's your opinion or experience in that connection?
well, I have a little experience actually
Yeah.
because I felt that I was trying. I said was writing a blog for a couple of years and it didn't go anywhere. It failed, and really, I was finding my voice, but I didn't have language to describe bhakti
Mm,
in a way that I felt would be compelling and that would really hone in on the gifts of bhakti, like the universal aspects of bhakti that everyone can relate to, that make it so
mm,
relevant. And I didn't have that. And I'll honestly say that there was a few years that I would go around and I would have conversations with my god sisters and say, I don't have the language. I can't find the language. I'm blocked. I cannot find the language how to express what I'm trying to say.
mm,
And then also I found that, certain Christian terms were a little weighted for Western audiences, that people
mm.
would, even the term God, you can't even say the word God really.
Yeah.
And so, okay,
That,
how
re-
am I going to talk about,
that
how
reminds
am
me.
I going to talk about,
Sorry, that reminds me of Richard Ross saying the word God has been so misused that I propose we stop using it for 50 years. So we
yeah,
can allow
yeah.
the word to die and be born again with its original intended meaning and reclaim its original purpose. And not only God, of course, such a long glossary we need to redeem, so to say.
Yeah. And then, I also didn't want to bring Krishna's name out in the very beginning because
Hmm.
that for some Westerners, that is also a weighted term that they don't
Hmm.
like. And so how am I going to speak about this? It was something where not only was, speaking about it to my god sisters, but I literally was on the ground crying, please show me the language. I am blocked. I'm completely
Again,
blocked.
another
And
death.
then it was another death. I mean, there were a lot of tears. Honestly, there were a lot of tears and on the ground dandavats that I went through. And
Hmm.
and then it's interesting, Maharaj. I don't know if I told you this, but I started developing a thesaurus.
A what?
So I have
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thesaurus.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, you didn't.
I don't know if I have pages and pages and pages of a thesaurus of ways that you can say the supreme, ways you can say God, ways you
Mm-hmm.
can say Swayam Bhagavan, ways you can say Brahman,
Mm.
ways that you can say Sampradaya, just like
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
terms that we use. I came
yeah.
up with words that we could use. So, like, one of the things that I developed was a term called our divine other. So the
Mm-hmm.
divine other for me is like in modern West English usage, there's a term called significant other. That means the most important person in your life, the primary relationship. And I thought, okay, we everyone relates to a significant other, but there's a divine other that is also that significant, more significant.
Mm.
And so, divine other, and I have a long list of these
Yeah,
terms. In
you have
fact,
to create new words, basically,
I
which
had to
is
create new
totally
words.
fine. It's not just finding old words or words that we are not using. Sometimes creating new words altogether.
Yeah, well, you're good at that. I'm not good at that, but I would just use English. I would
I don't
I
know
would
if
use English words that
I don't know if that was praise or what. Okay, let's leave it at that.
no, it was praise. I admire. I can't do what you do. But anyway, yeah, I actually had to find a language, and it was absolutely crucial. And then when the language came, the books just came out.
Hmm.
And there's no question to me that the language was it was absolutely essential. And what's interesting, Maharaj, I wrote for an outside audience, those who are not practicing
Yeah.
Gaudiyas, but it was such fresh language and a way to express bhakti that
For the
devotees just
devotees.
fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and preachers started
Adopting
using
the term. Yeah.
terms and concepts, like, how I focused on the soul being a unit of existence, knowledge, and and love. And
Hmm.
people, I mean, I know gurus started using that in their preaching because it was just so
Yeah,
expressive and relatable and clear about our philosophy.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
That's a very
I think a
interesting.
language is crucial.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's a very interesting paradox, and I'm somehow my own way have experienced something like that with my, especially my second book, Radical Personalism, when I tried to write it more considering other audiences apart from the Gaudiya community, but only to find that the Gaudiya community especially was especially attracted by that particular language, so to say. No, and of course now my third book, Greetings to Nagaraj over there.
No, it's my granddaughter.
Oh, okay. Greeting to Kina.
She's coming. She's, yeah, she's gone.
So, um, no, I was saying that even like recently I shared some a Christian author friend of mine. She started to read Radical Personalism, and she was like, "I love the term sweet absolute." No, so this type of
Yes.
things that we are trying to do to adjust, even for our own community, impact other communities. So you adjust for other communities and impacts your own community, because at the end it's all about relatability and keeping the message uh, yeah, current and deep and profound. Actually, this author, she's a translator of very ancient Christian works, and she writes a lot about what it means to be a translator in terms of this, of keeping the old message upgraded. Because one thing will be, okay, let's write new books to address contemporary issues, but another thing is how to translate the old books, because translation is an art in itself, no? So that's a very interesting another area, but very very related one. Going to your second book for a minute, Pranada. We have a few minutes, hopefully. Second book, if I'm not missing the order, is Bhakti Shakti. So it
Yes.
speaks about the Bhakti Shakti, no? The potency of devotion, and also, of course, is connected to Sri Radha, is connected to female divine, is connected to God being a goddess, so to say. So I like if you can share a few words on this, uh, yeah, divine concept of divine femininity, because many times, as you may know, we have such a patriarchal heritage in terms of speaking to God, and it's connected to what we are talking now, like adjusting the language and knowing how to speak of God also, not only as in male terms, but also in female terms, or even not only in singular terms. We can speak about the divine couple in our tradition, or Christianity will talk about Trinity. So there are so many ways to express the divine, which of course words do not suffice. But let's concentrate for a minute in this idea of Bhakti Shakti, Sri Radha, the divine female goddess,
Yeah.
whatever you may like to share.
Yeah. Bhakti Shakti is a further development of the Bhakti theology from Wise Love. Actually, I didn't think I was writing a trilogy. I had no idea I was writing a trilogy, but those three books are an actual trilogy, which I could explain what each one does. But yeah, I had been hearing about the sacred feminine and the divine feminine and the global dialogue, and I felt that understanding something about Radha and how God is masculine and feminine and how they are would be important for an understanding within that community, which is really quite large, actually. And I had been reading in feminist literature, and they actually have feminism. Feminists are trying to make a whole theology,
Yeah.
and they really were missing core aspects of developing a theology or even understanding what a feminine divine is or looks like. And I had also read some things about Sri Radha that were very unbecoming of her. And I felt like
Mhm.
that needed to be correct. That needed to be corrected. She was coming to the Western shores very new by Prabhupada's grace, bringing Radha and Krishna and the theology of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And I felt like one of us needed to do something about that. And so I wanted to properly introduce her in the way she should be understood and introduced for someone very new. And so I wanted to respectfully do that. And that's why I wrote that book, is to add to the conversation about the sacred feminine, which kind of began in the 1970s.
Hmm.
and was centered mostly on Durga.
Yeah. The
And in the yoga asana, yeah, the main goddess of the yoga asana community is Durga. And I'm like, well, you might want to know about Sri Radha and her personification of divine love instead of personification of the material energy, which can be a little intense at times. so, and then in that book also, in order to introduce Radha, I had to speak about Durga because you have the goddess of material energy, the goddess of the spiritual energy, and that we, as one of the Shaktis, can choose our relationship between the two. So that's what Bhakti Shakti does. I felt it was an important part of adding to the global dialogue. Yeah.
So still, when you were writing your second book, you didn't know you were writing a trilogy at that point either?
No,
Okay, so it came when you
no.
wrote the third one. Then it made full
No,
circle.
when I finished the third one and I published it,
Okay.
and then I got a voice that said, "You're finished," and I said, "Oh my gosh,
Oh,
there's a trilogy! It's a trilogy, and this is how they fit together." And they actually fit together, like really, they fit together. Wise love is the overview of bhakti. Then Bhakti Shakti, we have the three major categories of energy and how the jiva can relate to the god, to the two energies and the goddess, and then prema kirtan, the primary anga of bhakti,
yeah.
the primary practice.
A few words on Prema Kirtan to conclude. And I
Yeah,
like,
so the
yeah. What's the book about? Let me know. Yeah.
yeah the prema kirtan is, it's a you could think of it in one way as an awkward title because kirtan is popular, but what is prema kirtan? But I
Hmm.
think it was very important because we're writing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's specific kirtan, and his kirtan, as is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj
Yeah.
Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, is prema kirtan.
Chaitanya
This is the
Sri
prema
Prema
kirtan.
Kirtan. Yeah.
Yes, and it's the kirtan essentially for Gaudiyas of the Mahamantra,
Mm.
which is an Upanishadic mantra, which is unique among the kirtans that one can perform because of it being a Vedic mantra and being stated as the mantra for the age. So I wanted to, well, we see this explosion of kirtan in the world, in these yoga asana communities, and the attractiveness of it. And I wanted to inform people about the that it is a yoga and there's a philosophy behind it, and it's an actual spiritual practice that has a goal.
Yeah.
And we can, and there are other kirtans that have other goals. And so
Mm.
as someone who is doing something that we like, we might like to be informed about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Then we would have a why about what we're doing.
Hmm.
And then we would have knowledge about which kirtan we might want to do because we might have a certain goal.
Mm.
And I wanted to bring that out to the community because also Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada also were very keen. It's not just kirtan, it's philosophy, and the two should go together. And
Yeah.
and the kirtan was becoming very prominent, but it was becoming like a music scene, and I felt like we needed to share the philosophy behind kirtan. And in that book, I also kind of got more personal with my own practice to share the experience of what it looks like, and the experience of what it means to do kirtan, which is also japa, as a yoga practice.
Mm.
And that was like an invitation to others to see it as a yoga practice and actually take it up for their benefit.
Yeah, I appreciate your
So,
point on kirtan being the importance of having some orientation and philosophy, because if not, really, kirtan can become musical entertainment, and it can happen
yeah.
even in the Gaudiya community, of course, also. No, so for
Yes.
me, I like to connect the word Sankirtan. The Sam, of course, can mean many things: Samyak Kirtan, full Kirtan, Sangha Kirtan, Kirtan in collective association, but also Sambandha Kirtan. No, like kirtan
Yes.
executed with proper orientation and foundation and grounding. Because if not, again, it can become musical, but not mystical precisely.
Right.
So.
Yes, exactly. And people do have an experience in kirtan.
Mhm.
They want to know what it is. You hear that all the time. What am I experiencing and why? And so I wanted to share that. And then also, I felt like if we had a book like that, then during our kirtans, we could pause and read from it,
Good
or
point.
start by reading from it, or end by reading from it.
Yeah.
What is attractive about what is said there. Um, yeah, so that was the idea.
The
Hare
trilogy is
Krishna.
over so far.
Hare
There's no new trilogy opening or a quadrilogy or
No,
fifth trilogy.
no, I got an indication that that was the seva that
Yeah,
was
fine.
given and requested, and so I have made that offering
Yeah,
to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, and
beautiful.
it will go where it's going to go.
Yeah, and you are living your life very exemplary, and that's another book in itself, right? On a daily basis, you are writing the book of your life. I have had the chance of staying at your house a few months ago, and you were talking about kirtan, and I was very inspired to see your dedication to your sadhana, your chanting, and the seriousness of embracing kirtan as a daily deep commitment. So that's a book unto itself. Again, for me, that's the most important book that shows, okay, walking the talk, literally, no, walking the written talk. What you are writing about, you're trying to practice. So yeah, I'm very happy to be in your life, to be your friend, for you to be an elder and
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
look up for. So, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation with all this.
I had no idea, Maharaj. You definitely pulled it over on me. Hare Krishna.
Is there anything you would like to say just to conclude? Any concluding words, final thoughts, whatever comes to you at this precise moment?
Um, no, I am. I'm very well. One thing I could say is that um, aging is an interesting experience, and it is. There's a process to aging, and I would like Archana City to write about
Okay,
it.
we are
We could
throwing
write a book.
her onto the conspiracy here. This is a conspiracy against
Hare
Artemis.
Krishna, Hare Krishna. And since you pushed, you surprised me, I'll surprise you.
Yeah, I'm
But
thinking I
anyway,
was
there's
thinking that you are taking revenge now. I put you by surprise. You are taking her by surprise. But you have written something.
anyway,
You have written something with her, right? On that, on aging.
yeah, we
I
wrote a
think
book
mystic
called
disease, right?
"When When Illness Takes Hold: Hopeful Words for Sadhakas," and that's a free PDF and is available on Amazon. But you can get the free PDF by writing me.
Okay.
Um,
I'll be sharing contact
Pranada.
info just in case.
Oh, okay. Um, but anyway, in the process of aging, um, you're looking at the end of a life, and for a lot of people, there's grieving because life is not what you thought it was going to be. But as I'm aging, I'm becoming more and more content and peaceful.
Hmm.
That there's so much more to attain, and I have so much longing, and I have so much many desires for spiritual attainment in certain relationships. But at the same time, it's like I have experienced a beautiful life, and I'm extremely content. This is the Bhakti path is gorgeous, and the experience is beautiful as whatever the difficulty. We all have difficulties anyway we choose, but it's so rewarding to have such beautiful shelter in the holy name, in for myself with my relationship with Prabhupada, the relationships I've had with so many devotees who have accepted me with all my faults and given me shelter. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a good life. It's
Yeah,
a good
very.
life.
And thank you for sharing your testimony as an elder that, of course, many of us younger generations need to hear, need to witness, and need to receive that hope, that testimony of hope, and to reveal, to reinforce our faith, to know that despite complication, bewilderment, trauma, crisis, all that, at the end of the journey is worthy and the pilgrimage should go
Yes.
on.
I would not exchange one minute of suffering or difficulty
Yeah.
I would not change it. I wouldn't change it for what I have
Yeah,
received.
again, all those deaths help you to be alive and be more and more alive to the
Yeah,
point where you are now in your
yeah,
contentedness and appreciation. So
yeah.
thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Pranada, for
Hare Krishna
the
Maharaj.
gift of your life, the gift of your friendship, and looking forward to some
Hare
other
Krishna.
surprise meetings very soon. You never
Hare Krishna. Hare Bo. Jai Prabhupada.
know.
Thank you all for tuning in for the Free Radical podcast. It was a blessed gathering with a like-minded spirit, kindred spirit like Pranada, talking on so many wonderful themes to nourish our journey. So again, if you like the conversation, please subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, like it, share it, and as I like to say, any form if that you feel inspired to pay back for whatever gift you have received today, you can pay forward by sharing the message, by embodying, imbibing whatever lessons have touched your heart today, and extending whatever gifts are able to flow throughout each of us to whomever happens to cross your path. So thanks so much and see you in 2 weeks for our next episode of the Free Radical podcast.